Evening. It's Monday the 3rd of July. I've come across to my local reservoir, do a spot of tench and bream fishing. It's a lovely evening. I've already been and had a look down the dam wall and round the other side. I've not seen anything of particular interest over there. So I've dropped round to this swim here. I'm just going to get the marker rod out in a moment and start having a cast about, see what weed's about and whatever else. And check the depths, because I haven't been over for a little while, so I don't really know what's taken place here. I came across earlier in the year, if you remember, doing a bit of bream fishing and that. Did quite a bit of bream fishing over here. But I never caught any tench. The tench just weren't active at that particular time, and wasn't having any joy with them. So I thought I'd leave it for a bit, wait till the river season opened. A lot of people then drift away from here and they head down to the river, or other syndicate waters open and people go off to those, so it gets a little bit quieter over here then. And you get a little bit more bank space to yourself. I do prefer it when it's quiet where I go, I must confess. Not that I'm antisocial or anything. But anyway, I'm going to have a look around a moment. As I said, get the marker float out. There's several swims along here I'm just going to have a cast about into. And see what's what. And then get set up. I'm not really a big fan of marker floats, to be honest. Noise and disturbance they create, especially if you're only going for short sessions, is a bit of a nuisance. But for this sort of fishing, it's a bit different. I'm probably going to be here a couple of nights. I'm not expecting to catch a lot the first night tonight. It's mainly tomorrow night I'll probably be expecting to get the bulk of fish, if I'm that lucky. So I don't mind putting a marker float out now, getting a good idea of what the makeup of the bottom is as regards weed. It's one of these waters where you get quite weedy swims one year, and then the following year the same swim might not be particularly weedy at all. So it's always good to have a check about, especially this time of year once it has started coming up, and make sure you're in some relatively clear patches. The setup is straightforward, probably what most people use. I've just got a heavy lead on there with a stem just to keep it up the bottom and out of the weed, and that's running free on the line, goes straight to the marker float then. The only difference I do with mine is I don't tie that direct to the marker float. That's in a rather large loop so that I can poke it straight through there, over the top, and affix it onto the marker float. And then when I've finished, instead of carrying a marker rod and a spod rod, I just use the spod rod for everything. All I do is I pull the loop back over, pull that off and loop a spod on there, and I'm spodding at the same distance that I've got the marker float. The other addition I make to mine, I've got braid on the spool, because I do like braid for marker work and that, you do get a much better feel. But the sort of top 10 feet of this is actually 15-pound mono, and the reason why I have 15-pound mono on there is I find that the braid used to tangle around this particular part, and I'd be casting out and quite often the marker float wouldn't come up. I find with the mono on there that puts a stop to it. It's much more free running. But as I've said, I've only got it to the first about 10 foot. Up through the rings and back down towards the spool, and that's more than enough, and then it's just on to braid then. Anyway, I'm going to have a cast about. I'm not going out miles with this. I'd wear a glove if I was, because the braid does tend to cut your finger. I'm only going out about 50 or 60 yards. So I've not wet the spool. I'd normally probably wet the spool, to be honest, if I was trying to go further. Otherwise you can get tangles with the line flying off when it's dry, the braid rather. But as I'm not going out very far, there's no real need for me to do that. Right. About 7 foot at the moment. Bumping across quite nicely. Quite shallow there, only about 4. Quite a bit of weed in that part. About 20 yards out. Which is quite handy really, because I tend to find the tench on this water do tend to be relatively close in, whereas the bream tend to be further out, and I normally pick the tench up between the sort of 15, 25 yard mark, and the bream tend to be further out at 40, 50 yards as a rule, obviously in the deeper water. There we are, just there. I'm going to clip up at that, and then I'm going to put that round the marker sticks, and then or distance sticks should I say, and then I'll set the rods to that, and I'll fish a couple of rods just over that band of weed that's up to there. The rod's 12 foot, so I'll just use the rod to set the distance of the sticks. Blimey, the ground's a lot harder than I thought it'd be. I know it's been dry, it's normally quite soft over here. Tend to get the runoff of the water down the hills all the time. start unpacking some of this lot. I've come for, as I said, for a couple of days, so I've brought quite a bit of gear with me. 2 sets of rods. If it's not too windy, I'll fish a lighter set. If it's a bit weedy, then I'll go with a heavier set of rods. Beef the line up a bit. And I've got an absolute mountain of food and bait, just in case I want to stay a bit longer. And because I'm here for a few days, I've got the good old Armo 2-man. As I'm here for a few days, I might as well do things in style, get everything set up properly. Just get the net set up. Wind's dying off lovely. Wonderful evening. It's just about the right temperature. It's warm but not too warm. The water level's about perfect really, because I can use the pod, put the pod out and put the rod tips right close to the water's edge, the bottom of the lake, and press them against the bottom, and it'll actually save me having to back lead then. I've just been mixing up a bit of ground bait. I'm using yellow ground bait tonight with hemp and sweet corn in it, because I'm actually going to fish method feeders tonight. Reason for that is it's late in the evening, I don't want to spot a load of bait out there and scare everything off. So if I just use method feeders and just frequently cast, it'll just build up the swim quite nicely. As I said, I'm here for a couple of days. and then tomorrow I can spot out in the daytime when I'm not expecting any bites and that, ready for tomorrow night. So it's just hemp and sweet corn in there. I'm leaving that just to soak and dry a minute till it's about the right consistency now. I'm just going to put method feeders on the rods and then I'm going to get those cast out. Right, so as I've said, I've got the rods on helicopter rigs on method feeders. So it's a method feeder and then it's a helicopter sleeve, bead, little tungsten weight there which that bead can slide over and will slide up, so it's safe. And then I've got a 10-pound hook link on there, coated braid, strip back, size 12 hook. On this particular one I've got 3 rubber maggots and I've got an anti-tangle sleeve. And on the second rod, same setup, but I'm fishing a couple of grains of sweet corn on there instead of maggots. The third rod's positioned away from the other two and a lot further out, and I'm just going to whack a bit of a spread of boilies round the marker float here. I'm going to get my aim in. Loads of fry here, big shoals of it. They're obviously being chased around by some pike and perch. Looks like there might be somebody else coming down to fish, I think. There's another bloke's turned up opposite me on the point, and one gentleman's gone past and he's fishing a bit further down. Otherwise it's quite quiet, thank goodness. Put this rod back out to where it's supposed to go, a bit further out this time. I think the other bloke's come for a spot of pike fishing because he's stopped. It's lovely when the sun starts going down and you get its rays coming through the clouds and starts to colour up the water. It's one of the reasons for coming out, is these sunrises and sunsets. I think we're in, don't know what, but we're in. Ooh, something big just boiled out in front of that. Oh, I do hope it's not a skimmer. It's certainly not a tench, and it doesn't even feel like a big bream, to be honest. Still. The other rod's going now. Hope it's not small fish. That's something. It's unusual. Certainly not fighting hard enough for a tench. Not sure what it is at the moment. Could be a skimmer, it could be a reasonable roach. It's woke up a little bit now, whatever it is. That's decent sized roach. That's one in the net anyway. Well, it's a reasonable size. It's not really what we're after, but it's not bad. It'll do. That's must be over a pound. Slip that back. Looks like we could be into another roach, I think. Yeah. Yes, it's certainly nothing massive. Yeah, man. Yeah, I should imagine so. It's not fighting that hard. I've picked up quite a bit over the past few years over here, the roach have. A couple of years back they only sort of averaged about 15 ounces, but they've certainly increased in size of late. Funny how things go in cycles. Not quite what we want, but it's a fish. Might be a small bream. No, it's a small bream actually. I was wrong. Yeah, Mum. On plastic maggots. Small really compared to what I was catching previously, but it just goes to show that there's a good stock in here for the future of the fishery. That's the main thing. Anyway, I'll get this put back. There you go. I do hope we're not going to be too bothered with small fish all night. It'll be fun in the daytime, but not at night.
Trouble is, as soon as you put your light on, God, the amount of bugs are amazing.
We're in again. Always feels a lot better. This could be a tench, or certainly a bream. Bream, I think. A bit of weed on the line there. Have to watch that. He's in another smallish bream by the looks of it. I thought it was something better for a minute, but it was obviously just the weed around the end of the rod.
Well, bream on sweet corn and red maggots and roach on boilies. Sort you out in a moment.
I'll slip that one back. Well, just several smaller bream last night, and this one, which was a little bit better, which I'm just going to weigh now, just to get a size estimate really. When he's finished flapping about. Make sure his fins are all right. Only 5'8". I've had a lot bigger from here, but it's still a fish, that's the main thing. Looks like I've got another small bream on, or roach. Yeah. Clip that up while I'm at it. Still nice on these light rods, but I just don't know where the tench have got to. Still, I've got plenty of time to catch a few yet. Usually July and August, because the weather's so hot over here, are not particularly good months for fishing over here at all.
It'd be great fun on a little float rod, wouldn't you? Or a pole.
Well, that's it for me. Once again, a night, plenty of bream, some nice roach, that good hybrid, but no tench unfortunately. As I said, I did have a carp at about 2:30. Thought it was a tench at first, absolutely screaming run. As soon as I hooked into it, I realised what it was, because it was just solid and immovable. Played it for about the best part of 10 or 15 minutes, and it kited round to the side of it here, and then I could feel it going into the weed bed about 15-20 yards out here, and the next thing, away came the hook. 15 years I've been fishing here, and I've never hooked a carp by accident yet. Don't normally fish from over here because there's only a handful of them, and life's a little bit short. But that's fishing. Luck normally balances itself out. You know, quite often you catch the fish you don't deserve to catch, and you lose the ones that you do sometimes, but it all works out in the end. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the vlog up here. And once again, best of luck with your fishing, and thanks for watching.